Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the PvP talent, macro and advice video, which comes prior to the footage I'm about to record. I've talked about talents and I talked about the glyphs in the previous video, which you should be able to click on the link here. And if you want to have a look over some of the older macros, which were technically PvE, but there were some useful PvP macros built into the previous videos, have a look at these two videos here and here. Now these two videos have a sheep macro, a fear macro, some mana burn macros, some shackle and mind control macros, so they're worth looking at. But the only one additional macro that I didn't mention in those, which was specifically for PvP, is my Desperate Prayer macro, and it's very simple. It's included in the description, as all my other macros were in the previous videos, and it's just basically a simple macro that will use my trinket, my Cataclysmic Gladiator's Band of Dominance, which gives me a 2419 spell power increase for 20 seconds on 2-minute cooldown, but it will get used in conjunction with Desperate Prayer, which means Desperate Prayer will give you a bigger hit when it heals. As you can see, it's a 56k heal when the trinket goes, as well as my 3 stacks of grace, and that was without inner fire as well. It's going to be about 60,000, so it's a really good benefit. And you'll usually use Desperate Prayer when you're in a tight spot anyway, so the additional spell power thereafter on your flash heals or on your shield are also beneficial. So that's the one macro that I forgot to mention. There is something else I wouldn't mind talking about. As you can see, I've changed nameplates, which is important. I have them switched on only for my enemies. My friends, my allies, don't have them because I don't really need them. We should communicate what we're doing. We'll talk if we're CCing, so we won't need them on that sense. But what this will do is it will show my enemies and it will show the spells they're casting. It's an add-on called Tidy Plates, and you can very customizable. There's people out there with some wonderful videos talking about how you customize Tidy Plates, but you can turn on it showing the spells and enemies casting. So if you needed to use that sheep macro that I told you about before, which is just the cancel your current spell, cast Shadow Word Death macro, and you see a mage cast a sheep, and you can target them, or you don't even need to target them. You could do it on any offensive enemy target, but it will break that sheep straight away. So that's very handy. But also, I keep my Holy Fire focus macro that I mentioned previously, because if you will sometimes use Holy Fire if you get time to do a bit of damage, you might need then to switch back to healing. But if that target still may be close to dying, you can then keep using your Holy Fire, and you know exactly what target you had. That's the best benefit I have. With my focus target, then I can switch back and I can Mind Spike. And when you, of course, do your Mind Spikes, when you get 3 stacks, that's another benefit of Tidy Plates. It tells you how many stacks you've got. You can Mind Blast, and it gives you a 100% crit chance on Mind Blast. So it's very beneficial using those spells, using your Holy Fire. You might need to use a heal. You can go back to your target, and you can 3 Mind Spikes, and then you can give your Mind Blast, which is a big hit of damage. They might be close to dying. You can Shadow Word Death, and you can even use your Penance, which is quite a powerful offensive spell. That's only when you know you're on top of an enemy. You won't want to use that if you're using your Penance across the raid. So Penance is much more situational. Don't forget, Shadow Fiend is also a very powerful offensive cooldown. It does a lot of damage. It can put that extra little bit of pressure on somebody, coupled with your damage, coupled with your additional Mind Spikes and Mind Blasts. It could be a lot of damage going out in a very short space of time. And if your partner's using it with his cooldowns, if you time them together, you can do a big burst of damage. And don't forget that some of your, what would normally be defensive cooldowns, such as Power Infusion or your Spell Power Increase trinket, can be used as additional damage buffs. So you can do that extra little bit of damage. If you are confident enough that you're going to land that kill, suddenly you're hitting for 24k instead of 20k. And coupled with your opponent, you're hitting faster, and you're hitting harder, and you might be able to do a kill. Particularly in 2v2 arena, you as a disc priest will have to play much more offensively. You will be pressuring the healer into line of sight on you with mana burns. You'll be trying to land as many mana burns as you can, and if you get the time to do those offensive spells, you will cause additional pressure, and that's how you will get a kill as a disc priest in 2s. Also, don't underestimate the power of mind control, not only to stop your opponent healer possibly from healing, You can walk them line of sight, or walk them off a bridge, or walk them around a corner. Hugely, hugely powerful. And remember, if you're with a dotting class, you won't necessarily roll in 2s with a dotting class. You might do with an affliction lock in 3s. When you mind control, the dots will still tick through. You could use mind control on a healer, let the dots tick through, and you could have your ally, your friend, your arena partner call out when their CC is off cooldown, and you might be able to land a kill that way. So they're very beneficial spells in that front. One of the last things that I wanted to talk about was positioning. As you can see, or as you probably know if you do arena, positioning is vital. You need to be line of sight, especially from CC. So make sure you do lots of movement. You pop in and out of line of sight, you run around obstacles, and you keep your friends and foes in positions you know where they are, and you can benefit from there. If you need to come out and you see a sheep casting, remember your macro to break the sheep. But one of the things you might want to do as well is on your, assuming this target dummy suddenly is my partner, it's very good to put a marker on them because they can be seen through line of sight. So that's hugely important. If you remember, I turned off nameplates previously. There we go, I've turned off enemy nameplates there, but you can still see your mark, so you shouldn't be line of sight in your ally so much in arena if you do that. So the start of all arenas, put a mark on your friend, and put a mark on yourself, so that he can see where you are, of course, because sometimes you might need him to peel for you. You might need him to give you a helping hand on that front, or he might even have some off healing or a cooldown that he could put on you. Red Paladin, for example, might hand of protection on you, or hand of freedom, so he'll need to know where you are. So that's the brief, that's a few things that I forgot of the other 2 videos. Hopefully it will give you an idea of what's going on. The next video I've got is a little bit of bonus footage of me actually snagging my time-lost proto-drake. As you're aware, I was hunting that. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you would have known that it was a labour of love and I was there for quite some time. But I actually got it. So the next video will show you the kill. It will show you where I got the kill. It will show you where I was camping, but the tips video will also show that. And it will be a little bit of Kill It With Fire, so some sounds of another local Welsh band. Thank you for viewing these 2 videos. Over the weekend I will record some PvP footage, so you guys will have a laugh at me doing some of my PvPing. Like I said, I'm not the best. I'm probably a 2000 rated player at best. I know my class very well. One of the benefits, or one of the best PvPers will know their oppositions very well. They will know those classes, and that's how they get to their 2,200 ratings. And then you get the absolute pros that get beyond that, and kudos to them. You know, they put in the time to learn their classes and learn the oppositions, so it's very good. So you'll have a laugh with me. You'll see some of the mistakes I make. You'll see some of the things I do well and some of the things I've talked about, and you'll see some of my macros and some of my abilities in use. So enjoy the footage of me snagging my time with proto-drake. Enjoy the music. Landro out.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us. That's what she said. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. So let's do this. shots to put a bullet in it.